one of our favorites, Louis Riddick from ESPN, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Louis?
Good, Rich. How are you, man?
I am great. The matchup. Give me the XO matchup. Championship Sunday that you are looking forward to seeing the most that might actually affect the W and L more than anything else. What do you think? What do you got for me on that one, Louis?
Yeah, man. There's two of them. All right, one for each game that
Thank
really
you.
intrigued me. Okay, so let's just start with Philly and San Fran. Look, for this game, I mean, this is Clash of the Titans, right? We already know up front that it's going to just be a battle royal. I mean, both of these offensive lines and defensive lines are just studs everywhere, just men, just grown men. But here's the kicker. As good as San Francisco is defensively, and I love D'Amico Ryans, as much as anybody, it's the secondary that's the issue for this team. It's the secondary as far as giving up explosive plays outside the numbers, 15-plus air yards, the big shots down the field. And Jalen does it better than anyone. Jalen Hurts throws a football. You remember Jeff Blake when Jeff Blake used to play for Cincinnati? I played against him when I was with the Browns, the quarterback. He used to throw a real high-arcing moon ball that, I mean, you just would lose it in the lights, man. And Carl Pickens and Darnay Scott and them were coming down with just big play after big play. That's how Jalen Hurts is with A.J. Brown. That's how he is with Devontae Smith. And that worries me. That worries me for San Francisco, especially if they can't pass rush, if they can't get to Jalen against this offensive line. So that's X factor number one in that game. For Kansas City and Cincy, I'm going to boil it down to one guy. And I know obviously Patrick's health's an issue as far as how long he can play in this game and whether or not, he can sustain some semblance of mobility. This is about Chris Jones, man. This is about Chris Jones going up against an offensive line that has lost 3/5 of its starting unit.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be going up against a backup right tackle and right guard and Max Sharping. That look, Chris Jones has to wreck this game because if he doesn't, they will lose. If he is not terrorizing, and I mean terrorizing Joe Burrow the way Patrick was terrorized in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago by Tampa, they'll lose this game. Simple as that.
So I love that the way that you just phrased it, because that is rare to just say I can boil it down to just this scenario right in the middle of the line. But I'm with you. And here's the thing, Jones can do that. This is possible. This is more than possible. This could potentially really happen.
Yeah,
Louis.
Look, Chris is one of those dudes who, at, what is he, 6'6", about 315, 320. When you see him up close. I mean, he doesn't look that big. He doesn't look like he's that stout. But he's got those long, long, long arms and has so much power, and he's so fast with his hands. We did that game week 18 out there in Vegas against the Raiders. And I'll tell you what, Alex Bars, who was playing right guard for the Raiders, by the end of that game, he was like, you know what, I quit. If I have to play against this guy anymore, I quit. Because Chris had him on skates the whole day, just throwing him around like he was throwing around, a high school player. He has to do that in this game. And he hasn't had a lot of success really against Cincinnati as far as rushing, or rather, I guess I should say in the playoffs overall as far as affecting games to the degree that he can. If he doesn't, and Joe has time like he did against Buffalo. Now, I know, Buffalo, you're playing on a slick surface. Defensive lines don't really have great footing. Joe's getting the ball out quick. They're running downhill in the running. I know there's a lot of excuses for Buffalo, although that's another story about their D-line. But this game, it's going to be cold, but the surface will be fast. And him, Derek Nottie, Frank Clark, these guys all have to absolutely, Mike Dana, they have to go off in this game. Because not only can Joe throw it, obviously, I mean, you see how Samaje Perine's running the football. You see how Joe Mixon's running the football.
Right.
These guys are not messing around, man. And so, I mean, Chris has to have that game that people go, it's him and Aaron 1 and 1A at defensive tackle in the league. That's it. He has to have that game.
Louis Riddick of ESPN here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what would you boil it down to if you could, just in I know you mentioned the secondary, but Bosa and Lane Johnson, I mean, would you say just how Lane is holding up? Because wouldn't you want to see if you're D'Amico Ryans, like, okay, the Giants didn't really test Lane Johnson's groin. We shall.
Yeah.
We shall do that, and we shall do that early and often. And we've got we have the candidate to do it, to say the least.
Yeah, no question.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, the issue becomes, okay, so you have to get them to third down in the first place, which means
I love that.
You have to take care of first, right? You have to take care of first and second. Where as long as I guess it becomes like, how much do they want to expose Jalen Hurts in the run game? How much do they want to have him getting contacted? If he's feeling pretty good, and that means that the zone read game really is at his disposal, and he's willing to tuck it and run it, then San Fran's they've got an all-day sucker going on there then, okay? Then you have a tough time getting the third down because of how strong and formidable he is in the run game. So now it's up to everybody up front. Like it's up to Eric Armstead, Kinlaw, Samson Ebicam. All those guys have to play their part. Fred, Dre Greenlaw, they got to come downhill and stamp out that run first, because if they don't, then it's not going to really matter on third down. Then Nick can't really do his thing. So that's I mean, you're on it when you say, look, it really is about the lines, but it's really about the line of scrimmage, first and second down, first and foremost. The same way it'll be for Philly. It'll be the same thing. They have to snuff out San Fran's running game, because if you don't, and then they start getting that inside breaking play action passing game over the middle where, Ayuk just kills you, Kittle kills you, Debo kills you, then it's not going to really it's not going to matter. You're not going to be able to rush the passer if you can't handle first and second down.
Well, I mean, if you do get San Francisco to third down, if the Eagles win first and second down on the defensive side of the ball as well, then you can see whether Brock Purdy's got it or not, despite whatever he has proven he has, and I think he does have it. His two road games were in Seattle on a short week, which is no walk in the park, of course. But then there's Vegas, when they probably had half the building filled with Niner fans. This is a whole different ball of wax and different crucible. So what did you see last week, Louis Riddick, out of Purdy? Was it the inevitable hiccup, or was it maybe he's closer to striking midnight here? What do you got for me?
You know what? I think, look, for Brock, when you go up against a team like Dallas that can rush you and make you a little bit uneasy in the pocket, I mean, it's not going to always be perfect.
Right.
He was able to, there was a few times he broke outside the pocket on, off schedule plays where he's thinking, maybe I can get here to the perimeter, get to the edge, pick up 6 yards, tuck out of bounds, and live to fight another day. And Micah Parsons like, no, you can't outrun me. So it's a whole different class of beast that he's dealing with now, and it's going to be the same in Philly. It's not going to be perfect. Hassan Reddick can roll. Josh Sweat can roll. Brandon Graham. These guys. This is the best pass rushing team in the NFL as far as pass rush win rate. I mean, as a team, they're as good as Dallas, if not better than Dallas. They can roll 7 guys through there. So he's going to have some issue. At some point in time, he's going to have some issue with it not looking great. What he can't do, Rich, as we all know, is he can't turn it over. He can't give it to Jalen and Miles Sanders and A.J. Brown and that offensive line on a short field. You can't do that. You have to tuck it, eat it, whatever. Punting is your friend in this game for him. And I think he's already shown that he's smart enough to do that. And Kyle, you know how he is, man. He will take it straight out of his hands and say, look, you won't throw this damn thing at all then if you're going to do that. And we'll run the ball 45 times. Because if there is an Achilles heel for Philly's defense, it can be a power running game. It can be a team that will come downhill on you, and nobody smacks you in the mouth with the kind of attitude that San Francisco does. This is my kind of game, right? This is 1988, 89, 90, 91 football for me.
This is Leonard Marshall blowing up Joe Montana? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you got for me on this one?
Yeah, you know what? Well, see, unfortunately, it's the Cleveland Browns, January 1, 1995 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in the divisional round, where I saw John L. Williams, Bam Morris, and Barry Foster unfortunately coming at me for an entire game, and all 3 of them went over 100 yards. And I had about 13 tackles at the half. So that's what this That's how that could become.
Damn. So wait a minute. So you closed out the Browns in Cleveland for Belichick? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Lewis?
Yeah. That was my last year in Cleveland. Then they moved. But yeah.
He's closed up shop.
It was the 94 season.
Yep.
That was the 95 playoff,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 95 season is when they announced the move.
Damn. Louis Riddick
Yeah,
here.
a long time ago, dude.
Yeah, I hear you. Louis Riddick here on the Rich Eisen Show. I love it. Okay, so Bills and Cowboys, those are the two teams I would say that had the highest expectations of those who lost on divisional playoff weekend. What would be your advice for either one of those teams or for both of those teams hitting the offseason? And based on what we just saw and their viability to get back and get to where they want to go, where everybody's expecting to get there. What do you got for me on that, Louis?
Yeah, we'll start with the one that just lost most recently, being Dallas. Dallas needs more weapons for Dak. Period. They need more speed. We don't know how Tony Pollard's going to come back. What that leg's going to be like. Zeke is done. All they got is CD. They got to get more juice. They need more juice in the backfield, somebody who's healthy, who's got speed. They need more juice on the outside to go with CD. That's simple as that. I think the offensive line's a work in progress. They're going to be okay there. Dak has to do a deep dive on what the hell happened with me this year as far as how I was seeing the field, my timing with the wide receivers. Why was I making the decisions I was making? Why was I putting the ball in harm's way? He's got to do a deep dive with himself, with Mike McCarthy. He needs to get with all the coaches and just be like, let's figure this out. Defensively, so you need another corner to match up with to go with Trayvon. Continue to get more speed, get some more playmakers on the defense line at linebacker. Just fortify the rest of the defense. They'll be okay. I think they'll be all right, but they got to make sure Dak's got to make sure he's got his process right, man. He needs more help. Buffalo, on the offensive side of the ball, man. Buffalo wants. They have to be able to control the line of scrimmage and control the game running the football.
No doubt.
Especially, playing outside up there with somebody other than Josh Allen.
Exactly. That's and not to just jump in, not to just jump in,
no,
although I am
right.
doing that. It's just that, but all their numbers of, their red zone rushes are top of the league and their running game is top of the league. But that's because the quarterback is their best running back. And if you want to have Allen feel that he doesn't have to do too much, and you want him to do less and have that as his mindset, then give him somebody he can hand the ball to 20, 25 times. Try and win a game with Josh Allen where he throws it 20 to 25 times and see how that works. Don't you think?
No question. Absolutely. And, we talked to them earlier in the year. We were up there for their Week 2 game against Tennessee.
Right.
And I know that philosophically, that's who Sean wants to be, McDermott.
Right.
He said it. I mean, he said as much. Look, I want – like they had been retooling their offensive line the past 3 years trying to find 5 guys who would come off the ball and really play dominant football. And earlier in the year, I mean, it was in the preseason, they played out in L.A. They played the Rams. That preseason, I can't remember, it was so long ago. But I remember how they were running the football in that game, and I asked Sean about that, and he said, Louis, that's who I want to be. I want to be able to do that when we want to do that. But as the season went along, they just kind of reverted to being, well, it's Josh and it's Stephon and it's Gabe Davis, and that's just what we do. We just throw it all over the yard, and that isn't what they wanted to be philosophically in the beginning of the year. And they have to get that component. Defensively, Brandon Beane sat there at the table in the conference room and told us the number one thing last year when we finished the year and we were coming back from Kansas City, we said we have to get a closer who can put number 15 from the Chiefs on the ground because we don't have it. And when they lost Vaughn, it all, from that point on, the pass rush disappeared. It disappeared. They didn't have a guy. I looked this up. They didn't have a guy over the past 5 weeks of this season who ranked in the top 40 of individual players in terms of pass rush win rate. They didn't have a guy in the top 40. Greg Rousseau was like 43rd amongst all pass rushers. There's just no way, man. There's no way you're going to beat Joe Burrow like that. There's no way you're going to deal with Patrick like that. You're just not. And that's what they have to figure out. They got to get some people. They got to get some people, whether it's inside or outside guys. They got to get some people, and continue to find more playmakers in the secondary, which is where they were beat up this year. They were just beat up there. So that's really what it is. Establish the run game, be more physical on offense, and not rely on Josh so much on defense. You got to get some horses, man. You got to be like Philly. You got to be like San Fran. You got to have a guy like Chris Jones. You got to have a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who may be one of the best pass rushers in this playoff, who nobody talks about. No, Trey Hendrickson absolutely terrorized Orlando Brown last year in the playoffs. Again, when Cincinnati went to Kansas City and beat him, he terrorized. Orlando couldn't block him. Watch that on Sunday too.
So before I let you go, your best guess who we're seeing in Arizona in a couple of Sundays? Yeah, you know. Come on, you know. What do you think?
If Patrick can play this whole game, I think Kansas City will pull it out simply because I do think Chris Jones on a fast surface that where the weather isn't an issue, I do think he will make enough plays against Joe. And they're pissed off enough now to the point where they're tired of hearing it, about how Cincinnati owns them and all.
Burrowhead?
Yeah, I heard that one. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I heard that one.
Right.
I think they win that. And I do think, although I picked the Kansas City-San Francisco Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, I think that Philly's just so deep defensively, and the big play component worries me a little bit for San Fran's corners, that I think Philly wins this game.
So your best guess is Philadelphia and Kansas City, but it wouldn't be surprising if it's the third time we see the Bengals and the Niners play each other in the Super Bowl, and fourth was so close to being last year. It's unbelievable how those two franchises keep circling each other for the big game. Louis, thanks for the time. Truly, always appreciate. Love talking ball with you. Greatly appreciate it.
You got it.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Rich.
You got it. That's Louis Riddick. Louis Riddick. Always makes me smarter. Always makes me smarter. Chris Jones can wreck the game.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.